Hi, this is Louis Sum.
Some people dance cheek to cheek. Some people dance.
And you're listening to the New Wave Music Podcast.
Welcome to a very special episode of the New Wave Music Podcast. This is Steve. Not only am I joined by T-Bone, but we have several special guests with us on the podcast. Before we begin, though, I wanted to mention our sponsor, Offside Apparel. We needed custom t-shirts printed, and we found Offside Apparel, and I'm glad we did. They have great prices and service.
Yeah, you can design online or upload your own designs on their website at offsideapparel.com. It's the perfect solution for family reunions, schools, clubs, companies, you name it. If you need custom printed or embroidered apparel, check out Offside Apparel. Plus, they ship everywhere.
And if you use the promo code NEWWAVE, one word, NEWWAVE, you'll get 10% off your entire order until May 31st, 2024. Once again, that's offsideapparel.com. Joining us today is John Hall, Nick Whitecross, Simon Aldridge, Pete Barnett from the band Kissing the Pink. You'll remember they had such great songs such as Certain Things Are Likely. One Step. And Never Too Late to Love You.
Remember what we can do. It's never too late. It's never too late to love you. Never too late. Never too late to love you. Spend some time with me. Never too late. Never too late to love you.
Thanks so much for being with us today, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. We're very excited to do a US podcast. Great.
Oh, yeah, we are thrilled to have you here with us. Yes, thank you, gentlemen. Hey, back in 1986, I probably went through 5 cassette tapes of Certain Things Are Likely because I listened to it so much. I think someone owes me money. Who do I talk to? I'm kidding, of course. But hey, let's go through your roles with the band. Let's start off with John.
I played keyboards, and for my sins, I was the person who's responsible for kind of bringing everything together when we were trying to write songs in the early days. For some reason, people used to let me sort of take charge of it.
Because you were so good at it, John.
It's good you were a phenomenal musician and you made us all quiver and fear you when you gave us that stare and we played a bum note.
And Nick?
Me. I'm a songwriter and I inadvertently became a singer. I never wanted to be a singer. Simon actually recently asked me if did I always want to be a singer? And I never wanted to be a singer. I was like nowhere on the list. I wanted to be Jeff Beck. Once I heard Blow by Blow, I thought, that's it, I'll be him.
And Simon?
I play guitar, really. Didn't it come about mainly because when you went off on tour with the Police, and Nick, did you always find playing guitar and singing at the same time a little bit harder, or was it just...
I played guitar and I had to do this acoustic thing. We did these dates with the Police and I was playing the guitar and it just fell off in front of about 15,000 people. And that was probably the worst moment of my guitar playing life.
And Pete?
Yes, well, I learnt the violin from a young age, so I was mainly a violinist, but I did like being involved in all the singing and all the production side of things as well. I sort of, we all learnt a lot because when we started, we really knew nothing apart from a bit of, about music. We knew nothing of the technical side. And then rapidly we were thrown in all these studios. So you really started to learn what sounded good and what didn't sound good quite quickly, and then you obviously listen to the producers as well.
But you kind of started the band in a way, Pete. Remember at college, it was your idea, because you thought if we made some demos, we might get signed. So it's pretty much you, when it was you, me, and George just fiddling about. It was kind of your idea, wasn't it?
Well, I think that's what happens with lots of bands, isn't it? You get young lads and sometimes girls, but more often than not lads, and they nearly all play guitar. Nearly everybody in the world plays guitar or attempts it. And they get together, don't they, and jam. And really, that's what happened with us. I went out to the second-hand shops in Glasgow, which is Scotland for the USA people, and bought a second-hand drum kit, a guitar, which I think was a Gibson copy, one of those many Gibson copies, and a funny old organ, second-hand Hammond organ that we called Desmond for some reason. And we started the band. John was always a brilliant keyboardist anyway, so we virtually had a band, but we never really had guitar in those days.
You were at music school, though, weren't you? So I would imagine that there probably weren't many guitar players, and if they were more kind of classical guitarists.
Yeah, there was a guy called Mike McGeary who went on to be relatively successful. He was the sort of hot classical guitarist there.
So the band was born at music college, really, wasn't it, John?
Well, kind of, but it didn't really kind of happen till Nick joined, because when we were at, I was at the Royal College of Music. I don't know where you were, Pete. Were you at Guildhall? We were all still at music college. And then we were staying in the halls of residence, and Nick's mum was she was kind of in charge. Yeah, and she said, "You've got to meet my son." So we met him, and then we got on so well, and then he started writing the songs, and then we kind of got signed after that. But before he came along, we were just kind of probably a bit experimental and whatever.
You sounded like a cross between early Supertramp and Johnny Guitar Watson, if that's possible, if that union has ever been achieved.
Yeah, we were into kind of jazzy, weird, sort of classical stuff, and then Nick came along, and his songs were quite filmic, so we had to kind of work out how to make them work. And he never finished any of his songs. He wrote about half a song, and then he gave it over to us to finish it, and he was just happy for us to kind of ruin all his songs.
Well, gentlemen, I've got a question about the name of the band. A lot of people think there's a dirty reason for the name of the band, Kissing the Pink, but in reading about it, it turns out that it's quite a bit less deprived. How about letting our listeners know where the name came from?
I have to say it's not in any way of sexual innuendo. Just to dispel any of that. When we started, there was a lot of, for the first time in the UK, there was a lot of snooker on TV. And
that's kind of like billiards.
Yeah. I don't think it's a big thing there, but for us, it kind of kicked off in the early 80s. And I remember I used to get into a certain state of mind, enhanced by certain things, and watch the snooker for hours on end. And it just came to me, the name, because it's just when the one ball touches the other one, kissing the pink. It's when the white ball just touches the pink ball.
Wasn't it and Miles Stone, Nick?
I wasn't going to refer to any of that sort of thing, but, there might have been some other influence involved, yes.
So the band also kind of goes by the name KTP. Was that a name change that the label came up with, something you guys came up with, or something the band...
No, Atlantic insisted that because of the sexual innuendo, they had to abbreviate it. So we were effectively castrated.
No pun intended.
I must just add, though, that before that name of Kissing the Pink came up, we had been trying to find a name for about a year, I think, probably in total. And no name had ever kind of made the grade. And then when someone said someone's thought of Kissing the Pink, everyone went, "Oh, that's good. That's got a good ring to it,
Yes. Your first release, Naked, is a great new wave album with tracks such as Big Man Restless.
Then there's the group that doesn't move to the sound, to the humor. No one knows whose friend he is. He's always there. He's the big man restless, like 40 Indians.
And Love Lasts Forever.
I raise my lines and I've said before, the pleasure's right, but the fear, what's that for? Love lasts forever. Love lasts forever. Love lasts forever. Love lasts forever.
But as I understand, the label wanted you to go in a different direction after it was released.
We had problems with the label. I can't remember where they wanted us to go. I think there was so much variety as they saw it on the album. They might have wanted us to have a more sort of apparently coherent vision, but that wasn't our way. We tended to just write, a lot of different stuff. You've got the talking on Big Man Restless. You've got regular singing on Maybe This Day.
She was bound to it. She said, maybe this girl will dance with me, maybe tonight.
Got a real variety of things there, I think. I think we were just discovering, we were very much part of that sort of synth thing in the early 80s. So like most people, we were just making it up because no one really knew about synths then. And what did we have then, John? We just had your main synth, that little one.
I think it's the one that Pete bought in Scotland. You bought this.
The thing is, during the first year, the Yamaha DX7 was invented, and we immediately got one, and that did immediately bring a lot of ooh, ah, wow, exclamations as you listen to those sounds. It was a new world was opening up.
That's right. I've actually got a DX9. So you guys, if you want to have it for your podcast and someone out there might want it, they can have my DX9.
Well, I became a big fan of the band with the album What Noise, especially drawn to songs like Victory Parade.
It's another victory parade and it moves me. Victory on a summer's day, so sad. And each day when the bells ring out, he says, so much for glory. It's back home with another point of view. And there'll be no dancing today.
And The Other Side of Heaven.
You don't work, you sit around and read. You keep telling me things that you want to do. Turn around, say it's up to you. Won't you tell me what's on the other side of heaven?
Can you share some insight into making of that album?
Wow.
Oh my God. Yeah.
That was quite a drama. I don't know where to start, really. I think, didn't we have like 3 producers on that?
Loads of.
Yeah.
Yeah, back then you couldn't really easily make stuff like you can now. Like if you want to go in the studio now, you've got millions of tracks, millions of software synths. Back then there was nothing. You had to kind of invent it in your mind, get the instruments and try and make it work. So something like The Other Side of Heaven took, it was about 2 years with different producers. And the thing is, we didn't really know what we wanted, but we just wanted to try lots of things till it would sound right. But I think now it's a lot easier because you can use samples. So whatever you want to make, you can kind of grab things from samples and it's quite easy to make things. But back then, we had to kind of come together and try and make it all these ideas. And because we were kind of quite musical, we managed to do it, but it wasn't always easy. So producers often got a bit frustrated because we're trying to experiment all the time.
It's funny you should say Love Lasts Forever. That's my least favorite Kissing the Pink song.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I just found in overall, I think it started off I don't know how it's got to what it got to be. And sometimes when I listen back to it, it sounds like the weirdest amalgamation of different things, or it sounds like an unfinished song made into a song.
In the UK, that was released as the follow-up to the last film, wasn't it?
I think it was, yeah.
Another great song.
It was the last film I ever saw. And they're telling me lies, and they're telling me lies, and they're telling me lies, and they're telling me lies.
And the last film,
The
the
last
film
was extraordinary, yeah, and an utterly unique piece of music. It was actually the follow-up single, and I think that kind of might have sort of thrown the thing off course a little bit.
I think what they wanted was that, because there was the obvious thing is, you want coherence, I think, from a record label.
Yeah.
So if the last film is a hit, have you got another song with military drums in it? There might have been some pressure from all along that line.
No, but you've got Love Lasts Forever, and that's a single.
Yeah, go for that.
And I think it was a real feeling that probably Big Man Restless or something else should have come out, probably.
Indeed, absolutely.
But that album did really well. It sold over 150,000, didn't it? I think it was a really successful album in the UK. That's amazing that you like What Noise. How did you discover What Noise in America?
I think I got it through a German import.
So changing albums, the song "Certain Things Are Likely" was such a huge club hit. I know where I went, it was always brought people to the floor. When recording that album, did you know or think that it was going to be such a hit?
No, we were lucky because we spent a lot of time. There was a production company called PWL, who are a kind of pop factory, and we did some work there with a guy who was really the backroom guy. And he played it. What was his name, John? The guy who used to play sort of
Phil
Detroit.
Harding?
Yeah,
Phil.
He used to play us lots of music. He used to play us a lot of records from Detroit, like early house music. And so that became the sort of template, and we were really into that. And that became the template for that track. Real house music, early house, Chicago house. That was he just played us that all the time.
Yeah, very.
Phil Harding, the main mix engineer at PWL. He's got a podcast at the moment on YouTube. You can find it, the PWL podcast. And he literally started from year dot with the first single that they did. And he's going through them one by one. That's 30-minute podcasts, and we'll be on it a lot, yeah. They did Dead or Alive, they did Divine.
Yeah. He was very big with the bands that this podcast is interested in, that's for sure.
Yeah.
He was an amazing kind of producer and engineer. So as soon as we started working with them, he had this sound that was it was like a massive sound, which really suited our music. And we like we were talking about Heaven earlier on. We found it quite difficult to get the result we wanted. But when we started working with Phil, he just got this monstrous sound, and we just loved it. I think that's why Certain Things Are Likely did so well, because we were just happy to let him kind of make it sound as best as he could.
At the time in the studio, the T-Boy was the guy that could never go and give you up. What was his name?
Rick Astley. Yeah.
Kylie was wandering around. Kylie was always wandering around the studio. It was a very funny place. It was down in the sort of south part of London. It was called the Bunker. And Pete Waterman, in his office upstairs, he had loads of decommissioned guns on the wall. And you go up and have a meeting with him. And behind him would be literally AK-47s. Did you guys ever go up there and speak to him and see all that? And then he had a train set. It was just extraordinary human being, yeah.
He was an ex-DJ, and he had this mantra he used to say, when the girls, I don't know if this phrase translates across the Atlantic, but we had this sort of thing about handbag music. And I asked him one time, well, what does that mean? You're always referring to this sort of handbag thing. And he said, when I was a DJ, if the girls put their handbags down, then you had a big tune on the plate. Because
they danced around the handbags, wouldn't they?
The handbag, yeah.
Like we do now.
Like we do now.
So, gentlemen, what were the factors that kind of led to the band reuniting and ultimately releasing this big anthology set that you guys are set to release?
We're like
Last
we're
year,
a deranged family that can't separate from each other.
last
As
year
much
was
as
kind
we
of like
try.
the 40th anniversary of Naked. So it was, 1983.
Mhm.
And we started talking to Warner Brothers, who actually still have all the catalogue. And we were trying to work out what to do with it, really. And it was, to be fair, it was their idea that we spoke to Cherry Red, who they have a licensing deal with for catalogue works, and Cherry Red jumped at the idea of putting this all together. So it actually has taken a lot. It should have come out last year, but it's taken a lot longer for us to locate a lot of those missing tracks that are on the CDs, particularly some of the remixes and the more rarer tracks, because Warner's, when Magnet sold their catalogue to Warner Brothers back in, I think it must have been 80 something, with Chris Rea, us, and Roland Rat on it. I believe some of the tapes went missing. They were stored incorrectly, so they were in an archive somewhere. So I was working with the guy, Tim Madgwick, who very kindly organised all this for us and coordinated it all. I've been working with him, or we've been working with him, trying to locate all these tracks. In fact, Phil Harding actually sent us one of the mixes of certain things likely that we couldn't find. So thanks to Phil. And that really came about. And then that kind of triggered us into thinking about new material, didn't it, Nick, John?
Definitely, yeah. No, it just got us going. I'm a sort of inveterate writer, so I'm always at it. So once that got going, I just thought we might as well do a new album. So that's been being made.
Oh, so there are two brand new songs on this anthology. One's called Satellite, and the other one, Imagine Everyone. They're they're kind of new recordings. There are very obscure remixes. Particularly one of an Italian remix of One Step and an acid house mix of Stand Up, which is extraordinary to listen to. Yeah, 1988, 1989.
Wow.
Now, this new anthology is amazing if you get right down to it, and it's so comprehensive. But I do have one question. The 1993 album Sugarland is missing. Is there a reason why that album was not put on this anthology?
It's not owned by Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
And it's something that we're working on. There's actually another song that's not on there, which is Don't Hide in the Shadows, which we cannot find who owns those masters now.
This one.
We've been trying. Yeah.
The
There
naked
it is.
woman in front of you, look. This is the
So
first single.
There's an issue about ownership, so we had to just make a call on it and just say, okay, we'll have to leave it off this. We'll probably have to find. We're going to try and find who owns it, and then there may well be a point where we're going to put Sugarland actually up on Spotify and the digital services, along with new material coming through after this.
There's the other album as well, isn't there? That's on. What's that?
On Bandcamp, yeah.
That's on Bandcamp.
Yeah,
Yes,
there's an album
that-
called Fat Home on Bandcamp.
Yeah,
But Sugarland will be released. Sugarland will probably be released digitally towards the end of the summer, as you know, once the anthology has sort of had its life and maybe peaked, and we'll start releasing stuff digitally onto Spotify and all the in Apple and etc., which will be quite exciting. Plus new material coming, so that's from probably August, September period.
Going right back, the reason it's a bit sad actually, because we couldn't get this. This is the first Kissing the Pink single, Don't Hide in the Shadows, onto the compilation because the rights couldn't be sorted out in time. But this is actually produced by Martin Hannett, who did all the Joy Division stuff. So our first experience in the studio was with Martin Hannett, which was amazing. You know, we went from kind of fiddling about in 8-track studios to working with this genius called Martin Hannett, who did all the Joy Division albums and various other things.
Yeah, it was an independent release, and they just released 2,000 copies, so it's probably quite rare, isn't it, Nick?
Very rare, yeah.
So you mentioned briefly you had a couple new songs that are going to be on the anthology. Imagine Everyone.
Imagine everyone here beneath the sun, moving to the music now, together as one.
and Satellite.
I can't believe it's over. I'll forever wonder why. And the stars, they're so cool. They don't act like a fool. They're just watching you.
Can you go into some insight or some detail for our listeners about what those new tracks are?
Well, they were written during a period when it had gotten down to the three. It was me, John, and George at that point, the band. And we did this album, which is, I think it's still called Fat Home, most ridiculous name ever. But it is on Bandcamp, and it was part of those writing sessions. It came out of that period. Do you remember when that was, John? What sort of, was that in the 90s sometime?
Yeah, I think we'd really got into a lot of house music and drum and bass and clubby stuff. And we'd made such a lot of it under all kinds of different names. And then when we came to putting an album together, those kind of sounds were what we were using. So Satellite and the other one you said. Imagine. Yeah, it was all part of that kind of sound around about in the 90s, which was that housey, clubby drum and bass with lots of effects. And so those two tracks are from that. I mean, I don't know whether there's anything more to say about those tracks. I mean,
well, one other track that I really liked that I don't think our listeners caught, it kind of flew under the radar, was Stand Up. I believe that was your last single before the anthology. Is that correct?
Yeah.
We forget about that. That was done, I think, was it done at Eastcote where we'd done a lot of...
No, that was PWL.
Was that PWL as well? Yeah.
I think we really liked what we were doing with Phil Harding. And then when it came to doing Stand Up, I think, I don't know, when it was finished and it came out, for some reason it didn't do very well, but we all thought it was going to be massive. But for some reason, I can't remember what happened at all.
I've not heard that song before until this anthology, and surprisingly, I hadn't heard it. And it really kind of came to me as kind of an anthemic human rights kind of song based on the not only the title, but the way that the song, its movement. Really, I think that song could fit in anywhere.
Do you want to be our A&R guy?
I'd love to.
I think Paul Morley did all the artwork.
I have to move in with you, though. There's
Paul Morley got involved in that, didn't he? I think he arranged the photo shoots and everything. Paul Morley.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So along with the albums that are on this anthology, there is a plethora of remixes. Are some of the remixes from the original recording time and some from this anthology, or how did it all work out with the remixes?
Most of them are catalog remixes that we found again. I mean, a lot of those did come out as 12 inches or B-sides, or actually 12-inch remixes, but perhaps have just been forgotten about. The more recent one is the Visnardi mix of One Step. That's the two big Italian DJs. That's relatively new, but there aren't any new. We didn't do any new remixes of that. But what we have done, we've done a version of The Last Film with another singer, a Swedish artist that we work with sometimes. John created a brand new kind of more ambient, amazing version.
Last film I ever saw, the words were short and so sincere. I thought of home, my life was there. It was the last film I ever saw. La da da.
She's an amazing singer, isn't she, Josephine?
Phenomenal voice. Yeah, she really has a
Yeah.
beautiful, beautiful voice. Josephine Enriquez, she's called. So that's new. There's some live recordings there, of course, as well from the W that we did in Holland. Belgium. W Fest when we played.
Yeah.
I think we did. It's One Step and Last Films on there as the live version. So they're really live.
Now, I want to go back to Sugarland for just a moment. I thoroughly enjoyed the track George Foreman. I'm guessing the answer is no, but did he or his estate ever contact you about that song?
I'm constantly being hammered by them. Not. I can safely say I've never heard anything from his estate. No, he's a Houston guy. So
you were in Houston.
We had a studio set up above in a drama school. And he just came across the landscape, and we wrote a song about him. He's a big guy.
We lived in Houston for like 3 years.
No, I think you've got your drug intake is getting the better of you. I think it was more like 6 months.
No, it was not, Nick. It was definitely
3
years.
It was 6 months, but it felt like 3 years.
We loved it anyway.
We had a fantastic time. We had an amazing time.
Yeah, I missed all that time. I'm quite jealous. I missed all that sort of thing.
They're super laid back. They're the most relaxed
people. A mutual friend, wasn't it? It was a mutual friend of ours called Sandy Stewart, who did a lot of work with Fleetwood Mac and Stevie Nicks, songwriter with them.
7 Wonders for Fleetwood
She became
Mac.
a friend of ours, and then she moved back to America, didn't she? She was in the UK for a long time.
Yeah, she used to live in Hampstead.
I think she dated one of the Smiths, actually. I think the Smiths guy that just died, passed away.
Andy,
if you're listening, we love you.
Yeah, we got invited. The reason that happened is because John and I got invited. We went over to write with Sandy Stewart, who wrote 7 Wonders for Fleetwood Mac. So we went over. She'd actually rented a huge room where Talking Heads did the live. You know that very famous film of them performing live?
Oh, yeah.
Not making sense.
Yeah, so she rented that room.
Oh, my
God.
And
when we got there was like a little, like her keyboard set up, my sampler, another keyboard, and we sat there for days on end, but I don't think it ever came to it. She was going through a sort of depression, so nothing really got written. But what we did do is we sat in her car a lot and listened to a lot of Marianne Williamson tapes. Marianne Williamson might ring a bell. She's now a presidential candidate in a very small way. She's the spiritual end of the far something, not left or right. But so that's what we used to do. And we used to float around in a pool, John and I drinking beer, talking shit to each other for about 3 months instead of writing.
To go back to George Foreman, the way Nick writes songs is he tends to kind of immerse himself in kind of the culture of the place. So we were in Houston because we went to work with Sandy to begin with. We were probably there for 3 years, but backwards and forwards. And the way Nick writes songs is he finds things in particular places, and they become the kind of subject matter for the song. So that we went to see the Dalai Lama there. We also saw, was it Terence McKenna or a couple of these?
Oh, we saw that famous LSD guy once.
Timothy Leary.
We saw Timothy
he did
Leary.
A tour. We also saw Miles Davis there playing live.
So all these kind of things in the culture of Houston got absorbed into the songs in a kind of funny way. So that's why we have these interesting titles of songs.
Well, a question for each of you. What is your personal favorite Kissing the Pink song, and what makes it special to you?
Wow.
Gosh.
Okay, go, Simon.
I'm going to have to say One Step, really.
Okay. Yeah.
That it was huge in Italy, and we had a whole summer of going around Italy, largely miming. But I think I also enjoyed the recording of that when we were in Munich with Pete Walsh, and I think it's a perfect pop song.
It's awesome.
But my other favourite is Greenham.
She's like a mountain. This is the song, and it goes on and on, and it won't disappear. 30,000 women, and it won't disappear.
Which I think is an extraordinary homage to the Greenham Common women of that time. I think that's just a beautiful song. So I've got two, in fact, if you're going to stretch me. Nick, you're on.
I'm
Can you
trying.
remember that?
There was
You're looking
something.
at the anthology now, aren't you?
I'm
You're
looking at
the CD.
Sugarland, but I should be looking at the anthology. Wow, that's a really difficult question. I really like The Big Man Restless. I think it's a little, the final version is a little bit too polished. I think it's a little bit too polished, but you wouldn't know that now. But I think it's a kind of contribution on an original level. I also like One Step a lot. I like it because it's kind of very odd on another level, because for some reason I went through a period of pretending to be Clint Eastwood. And so I was sort of speaking in this faux American accent at the beginning with a touch of a preacher, and then you get all these like gospel singers coming in on the chorus, and then John comes in with this extraordinary melody, which is really kind of weird.
Inside looking outside, trying to put one foot in Eden. Come stay, you stay. Try looking sideways, try looking backwards. Imagine how I must be feeling. And each time I pray, I wonder which way I should be kneeling. One step away.
So I know people consider it to be a big pop song, but on a sort of structural content level, it's very strange.
John, yours?
Oh, I mean, there's so much of it that I love, but I think that the song that really kind of nailed the way forward was when we did the last film and we managed to get the snare drum sounding like a kind of cinema scope. That really opened up the sort of possibilities that we could make this kind of filmic kind of music, because I think we were always really struggling with the record company saying, you know, you need a sort of hit record, and our manager was a very artistic sort of guy, and he loved Tarkovsky movies and he loved the arty side of the band, and we always wanted to find a way of marrying a kind of cultural sound with something that was popular. And I think the last film, God knows how we did it. It's an odd record, and it seems to summon up so much. And I'm really proud of that, how that ended up.
Pete, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think my love has always, I mean, I love all the music, Kissing the Pink, but my love particularly has always been layers and layers of backing vocals and different harmonies. I sing in lots of choirs now and stuff. I've always really liked harmonies. So I've always loved The Other Side of Heaven, because when you have that other side of heaven bit and everybody's on top of everybody else, I know sometimes with the recordings, we never maybe quite get to what we really had in our minds, because you've always got this sort of thing, like you've got the feeling of Bohemian Rhapsody at the back of your head somewhere or something. And you think, yeah, we'll make this sound like this. And then when you go in the studio, as John's already said, it doesn't always come out exactly as you want. But I'm pretty proud of that, even though probably it's not regarded as terribly commercial.
There's the Celestial version on the anthology, which is an extraordinary version of it.
You say it's been all for them. You've had enough of them. I'd like to say that I think we've changed, but I hesitate. I know it's still the same. Won't you tell me what's on the other side of heaven?
Amazing, yeah. It's still amazing, yeah.
So, gentlemen, outside of your involvement with the band, what other activities or endeavors have each of you been pursuing?
Wow. I went academic for a while, so I did a MA in Jungian psychology. I have a whole that other life. You know, I started off in that way, and then I got perverted. But so I have a lingering aspect of that going on as well.
I run
Other people, who are they?
I run a charity now, which is I get funded, and I work with people with struggling with mental health issues, and I sort of go into hospital, work with them, teach them to write songs and perform. I do quite a lot of work with young people as well who are kind of struggling with suicide and stuff like that, and I get them to kind of get their feelings out. And it's probably from what we discovered in the band and the way we kind of managed to sort of interact and do and make music when there's 7 of us in the beginning. I kind of do that now with people that I work with, and so that takes up a lot of my time. But it's still fascinating to come back to the band as well.
I after I left the band in I think 89 or 90, I went to work. I jumped into the industry side, so I was an A&R guy for a long time. I went to work for ZTT Records, Trevor Horn's label. So I was A&R for about 7 years there, and then went to Columbia Records, and then ended up with head of A&R at Sony ATV Music Publishing, all sorts of nonsense, yeah. But yeah, I had great. I mean, looked after a lot of songwriters. Just worked a lot with songwriters in their early stages. I managed to develop many. I won't say they're household names, but certainly some very, very big names. From signing them, helping them get through their careers. A lot of songwriters, people who write for Dua Lipa and all sorts.
Like her a lot.
Dua Lipa, yeah.
I love that song.
Which one? There's a lot.
Don't Start Now. The really fun one, Don't Start Now, is an absolute monster, because I follow that guy, Ian Kirkpatrick, who's a kind of producer, programmer. Yeah. He's on Discord a lot, and I just watch him work. It's brilliant. You can actually watch how he makes things. It's amazing. The access to how people make music now. So if you're a music fan and you want to know how musicians work, we never had access to that. We only found out when we went into studios and we worked with these producers who were, you were faced with this huge desk and they knew everything about it. You just knew what a stereo system was, and you knew a bit about bass and treble. But now you can really have everything in your house. You can have a whole studio, and you can learn from people online, which is an amazing resource if you're a would-be musician.
So I've seen that you guys have done a number of gigs over the past couple of years. Are there any plans for a tour with this anthology coming out?
I think we'll have to wait and see how this goes. I think we have to wait for the reaction, because the problem now is that because the business model has changed so much. In the old days, you signed to a label and everything was kind of laid on. The studio time, touring was organized. You just had to show up. But now that business model doesn't exist. So how you fund touring and who's going to actually back that, and where you'd gauge the response. So the response is entirely based really on downloads, because no one buys, it's a great thing that it's a CD and there might be some actual vinyl. But as a business model, in terms of how many people listen in that way, it's Spotify, let's face it. So if there's a great reaction on Spotify, that might justify some sort of touring and playing.
It's a costly investment to put a band on the road, even though we've got access to so much technology that makes it much, much easier. When we did W Fest, we broke even.
Yeah.
basically. Also, we missed out. We didn't miss our train, but our COVID certificates were incorrect. So when we got to get the train back, we weren't allowed on. So we had to stay another night, which was good fun. Great fun.
Really?
We stayed another night and had to get the next train back. We had to end up at a chemist in Belgium trying to get our COVID. We'd love to do loads of dates. We'd love to come to America. I mean, I think Nick's right. Waiting to see how the anthology does. I mean, the pre-sale is high, so we're doing well on that, and Spotify. So I think there's definitely room for us to do that. I think touring America would be a dream, but if we could jump on somebody else's tour, we can do it. We're not that expensive, guys. Anybody wants to book us? We're available.
Front room gigs. If you want us to come over and play in your house, or
we can do all that.
We'll be there.
Yeah, believe me, we would love to see you over here in the States.
Anybody ask? I mean, genuinely, we'd love to come over, and we could do it easily as well. Yeah, it's not. We don't have articulated lorries anymore. It's all in a little handbag.
Yeah.
So the Anthology collection is a huge endeavor, as we've been talking about. It's got some great catalogs, work from you guys, great songs. I think it's really, our listeners would really be interested in connecting with it. I see it on social media. You guys have a great presence on there. Like on Facebook, I see a lot of response through your site with the Anthology, and I also see it looks like it's going to be fairly readily available pretty much everywhere. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think you can literally buy it through Cherry Red Records. If you just Google Cherry Red Records, you can buy it from their website, and they have distributors across the globe. They've got deals all throughout. So wherever you are in the world, you can order it, and it'll be sent to you. Yeah, it's a lovely package. It's just brilliant. Here it is.
Yeah,
I'm showing it you, but this is audio only. So, but it sounds great. Here it is. A fantastic package. It's just odd that it's happened. Looking back for us is quite hard, isn't it? We're always looking forward and want to make new stuff, and looking back and sort of going into that nostalgic world for us as creative people can sometimes be hard. But this is to see all this material that we've made.
Amazing.
It's a statement in a way, that here we are. This is what we did and do and are doing,
A friend of mine in New York, he just ordered a copy, so it must be accessible over there.
It is, yeah. You can buy it from cherryred.co.uk.
So let's finish up the interview with what's the best way for our listeners to stay up to date with the latest news and developments regarding the band?
Call me personally.
Email Nick.
I'll give out my private number, and I'll just sit on the phone 24
Nick's
hours.
number is...
Yeah, Facebook. Message us through Facebook. You can message us through our website as well. But Facebook is probably our most active. I mean, we have an Instagram and a Twitter, but we're not. I think just because of who we are in our age group, it's easier for us to function on Facebook. We've got loads of friends. Instagram, we do use it a bit, but Facebook. Hit us up on Facebook, man.
Thanks again for being with us, guys. It has been a pleasure talking with you. To our listeners, if you enjoyed Kissing the Pink, then do not miss out on this anthology. It is well worth it. Again, we thank you guys for being with us. Best of luck on this anthology.
And thank you for spending your time with us.
Yeah.
Thank you for being such enthusiastic fans. We're fans of yours as well. I've been listening to a couple of the podcasts. They're brilliant.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Really, really
Appreciate you saying
well
that.
done.
Appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, fantastic.
If this is your first time listening, we thank you and ask that you please subscribe. That's a great way to support us. And if you enjoyed this episode, please feel free to leave us a 5-star review. You can find us on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. Just search for New Wave Music Podcast. We'll catch you on the next episode.